Konnichiwa, everybody. Goju Ninja here. I am back with another tutorial video, and today I'm going to go over one of the most basic movements used in traditional karate, which is the good old straight punch from the chamber position. Different styles use different chambers, namely high or low. My specific lineage uses a higher chamber, so I'm going to teach it from that. But the things in the video, you should be able to add into your lower chamber. And I'm going to explain the proper mechanics of traditional karate punch and give a brief explanation at the end of why I believe we use the chamber, which there's multiple reasons for. So I'm just going to get into it. So we come to this position with our hands right on the side of our chest, kind of right next to our pec. Our elbows are tucked back because we don't want to have our hands out here like a chicken wing, so tucked back. Now we're just going to concentrate on one hand, okay? So as I demonstrated in the beginning, straight punches from karate look something like this, okay? So using one hand as an example, good chamber, side of the hand, we don't want it out in front of the chest. It's going to be tucked back just a little bit. And if you have a mirror in front of you, you don't want to raise your elbow, which also will raise your shoulder. So your shoulder is dropped down. Therefore, you can see a little bit of your forearm in the mirror in front, okay? The hand comes out, scraping the inside of my arm, scrapes on the side of my body, comes out, starts to turn as it's, end in its path. Then the last 3 or 4 inches is when the punch turns over, okay? Punch turns over for that driving power. So again, hand here, elbow sucked in, punch comes straight out like a torpedo, straight out. As it's turning a little bit, then the last 3 or 4 inches turns in 6. Shoulder comes down, locks all the, your lat, your shoulder, everything kind of compacts it into here. The end position for the fist, it's kind of hard to show, but you don't want to punch with these 2 knuckles. We're mostly concentrating on these 2, which is your pointer finger and your middle finger. And in order to do that, instead of having your wrist curled, which kind of feels natural, you're going to slightly turn your fist out. And then from your pointer finger knuckle straight up to your elbow is almost going to be kind of like a straight line. And that gives you the ability to connect with the 2 knuckles, drive in, push in. As you get quicker with the punches, you're eventually gonna, put your hips, a little bit of shoulder into it. At first, most people just kind of look very robotic. Then you start learning how to turn your hips, turn and then pull back, so you come back to this square position. Then eventually you're gonna use knees going up and down. So when you go to strike, you'll slightly sink, you'll use your hips, shoulder, one goes out, one goes back, then you end up in a good locked position. Side view, same. Here, shoulder down, hand comes out, turns, comes and locks, okay? Your other hand pulls back into chamber. Now, I believe the main focus of chamber is what's called hikite. Hikite means like pulling hand or grabbing hand, okay? So if we were fighting and my hands were up, somebody attacked and I guarded and I wanted to punch, one hand would try to grab onto them, onto their arm, onto their hand, and pull back as I punched. It's like the method of, you have a parked car and a car going 60 miles an hour. This car, that's really, it's a bad accident. But you have 2 cars coming at each other at 60 miles an hour, it's a lot worse. So the reason I say that is the pulling hand and the punching hand is like that 60 mile an hour, or both cars going 60 miles an hour. Because as I'm pulling, I'm also punching. I also believe that the chamber is an overtraining tool. Karate has a lot of overtraining tool. So if you're in a fight and your hands are up, you obviously don't want to do this, okay? And obviously you don't want to pull back all the way to chamber, okay? So you might say, well, then why do you do the chamber? Well, typically your body only reacts about 50% of like how you've trained it to react. So if you've ever been super nervous in a competition for like, I don't know, basketball or something, and you've trained these perfect, you know, 3-pointers in the game, your anxiety level's up, everything. You might not have that exact perfect form, but you had to practice in that exact perfect form to be able to make that 3-pointer under that, you know, stress. So what I believe the chamber is, another tool that the chamber does give you, is that when your hands are up, that you do slightly cock back halfway between not cocking back and halfway between cocking back too much. Your body will react 50%. Pull back, so that way you can deliver a lot of power. Now that doesn't mean you want to pull back, expose your face to get hit. If my hands are up, I will probably pull back a little bit and deliver a lot of power. The karate chamber in the delivery of single punches also does help you with singular technique perfection. So a lot of people, if you just take them right off the street and you're like, put your hands on guard, they're gonna be like this. So first correction would be like, you know, or they're gonna be like this. First correction would be like elbows in, then put your hands up a little bit higher, right? The chamber teaches you to keep everything within your body. That's why we use the word scrape a lot for new people, because we don't want them to do this and come out like a whip. We want them to scrape so that each straight punch is torpedoes coming out of a tunnel. You know, tunnel is straight, or a chute is straight. It has to come out that same way. So that when we get into free sparring or ju kumite, like free sparring, they're not punching like this, which is so, you know, it's so telegraphing, especially if you have experience. These punches, you can see, these ones are straight up the middle. In the chamber, with the hands coming, or the fists, hands coming straight out, is a huge tool. And that's kind of what I believe that the two main purposes of the chamber is. So I appreciate you tuning in. The karate punch is pretty basic. You just have to do it 1,000 times to get good at it. Putting out more content. Please subscribe. Have a good one.